My mom called me panicking at 3 a.m. Your sister's in the hospital. Send $22,000 now or we'll be ruined. I said, call your golden son, hung up, and went back to sleep. By morning, the police were calling. I'm Erin. I'm 31, a firefighter. It's my job to run into the smoke when everyone else is running out. But the real fire? The one that almost consumed me? That blaze was burning right in my own home, fueled by family, and it erupted with a phone call at 3:04 a.m. that promised a crisis, but delivered a betrayal so deep, it felt like my own flesh and blood were trying to burn me alive. Look, I'm the middle kid. The one who remembers birthdays. The one who fixes the leaking sinks. At home, the siren song isn't for emergencies outside. It's the sound of people running to me whenever there's a mess to clean up. My off days smell like detergent and stale coffee. I keep my turnout gear in the hallway, a weird superstition, maybe. My apartment above the station gym isn't much. A bed, a cracked TV, a drawer full of ash-colored t-shirts. But it's mine. Mom calls me reliable. Dad? He calls me stubborn. My little sister, Jess, calls when the pipes burst, her car won't start, or her latest boyfriend just doesn't get it. My older brother, Evan, well, he doesn't call. He texts. Usually a screenshot of a bill. But that night, my phone vibrated across the nightstand, skittered, and hit the floor. I answered before the second ring. Years in a firehouse teach you this. Bad news never waits for voicemail. Erin. My mom's voice was shredded, tearing into my ear. It's Jess. She's in the hospital. We need $22,000 right now or they'll leave her without support. And we'll be stuck with all the bills. My heart slammed against my ribs. I sat up, my bare feet finding the cold floor. What happened? I demanded. Don't argue, she snapped. Just send it. I know you have savings. You're the only one who. Then another voice in the background. Dad's weary but laced with venom. If he cared, he'd already be wiring it. Don't waste time explaining to a hero. The room seemed to shrink, everything sharpening to a single, agonizing point. The glowing red digits of the clock, my name, spat out like an insult. I rubbed my eyes, fighting a wave of nausea. Call your perfect son, I said, my voice flat, dead even to my own ears. Call Evan. Then I hung up. I put the phone face down and lay back on my pillow, as if we hadn't just set our entire family on fire. My chest hammered, a relentless drum. But I didn't move. I just stared at the ceiling, at the hairline crack I never patched, a fault line through which their voices, Mom's panic, Dad's contempt, leaked into my quiet space. The old script. We all knew it by heart. She said, I see you. She said, money. But she didn't say why. She didn't ask if I was safe. She didn't even say please. My phone buzzed 3 more times. I didn't look. I shoved it under the pillow, a siren I could finally smother. I slept the way we sleep on a rig between calls, one eye open, body ready, mind screaming no. At 7:11 a.m., it rang again. Different number. A clipped voice. This is Sergeant Kovalchuk from the 12th Precinct. Is this Erin last name? Yeah, I croaked. We need you to come down to the station to discuss last night. Regarding your sister and your parents. The line went quiet, long enough for me to hear my own ragged breath. I slid my feet into my boots. I'll be there in 10. Growing up, Erin will figure it out was practically our family motto. Evan, my older brother, was the golden boy. The basketball hope, the scholarship that never materialized. Dad bragged about him to anyone who'd listen. But when things went sideways, his knee, his grades, everything, he learned a different trick, turning his problems into other people's debts. Jess learned to be sunny and small, always needing protection. I learned to carry it all. At 19, I started pulling weekend shifts as a volunteer firefighter. By 23, I was full-time, eating smoke and paperwork in equal measure. The job made sense. Fire has rules. You learn its mood, you respect its hunger. You don't negotiate with it. You put it out. My family? They didn't have rules. They had stories. In those stories, Evan always tried his best, Jess was always fragile, and I was just so good with money because I didn't buy things. Translation: Aaron will send a transfer and fix it later. Money was a river that always flowed downhill toward the biggest noise. Dad's alternator died? I paid. Mom's crown cracked? I covered the dentist. Evan invested in somebody's gym? I signed a short-term loan at a predatory rate, pretending it didn't bite. Jess moved in with a guy whose occupation was crypto? I put first and last month's rent on my card to get her out. Every single time I said yes, Mom would murmur, "We won't forget this." They forgot immediately. The next favor walked in wearing the exact same face. A month ago, at Sunday dinner, Dad looked over his glasses at me, a calculated sneer on his face. "You're 31 with nothing to show for it but biceps and a savings account. When are you going to start thinking long-term? Buy a house. Give your mother something to be proud of." "Proud like Evan?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Not a challenge. Just a test of the smoke pattern. Dad's jaw twitched. Evan was, as usual, late. He arrived with boxes of limited-release sneakers, left with Tupperware and a gas card I'd loaded, just this once. He kissed Mom's cheek, told Jess she looked tired, and avoided my gaze entirely. Jess's boyfriend at the time, a guy with a watch he couldn't afford, whispered, "Man, your folks are intense." "Only when they're awake," I replied, and Jess snorted wine through her nose. She apologized immediately, as if laughter was a luxury taxed in our house. 2 weeks later, Jess showed up at my door. A trash bag of clothes. A busted lip. We sat on the floor, frozen peas on her face. She tried to joke, "At least it's organic." I offered her my couch. I offered to change her locks. She said she needed to handle it herself, then asked if I could spot her for a deposit somewhere new. I said yes. I always did. That night, watching her sleep, she looked 8 years old again. Braces, bangs, begging me to lie that monsters didn't check closets. We made a plan. She'd save. She'd take the clinic job. She'd block his number. She'd pay me back, small bites. She borrowed my old iPhone because hers was a spiderweb of cracks. I set it up for her. New passcode, Face ID, clean as a blank wall. The first crack in my world came on payday. I saw a cash withdrawal on my account. $200. I didn't remember making it. Then another $40 at a gas station across town. I frowned, changed my bank password, told myself I was tired, sloppy. But then I noticed the wallet I kept in my kitchen drawer was out of order. My extra card, the one I used only for emergencies, was back in a different slot. My skin buzzed. I counted the cards. All there. I breathed. Asterisk, you're a firefighter, Aaron. You know what panic smells like. This isn't it. This is just suspicion. Asterisk, I didn't ask Jess. I should have. Instead, I watched. I took photos of my card numbers, set up location alerts on new purchases. That's not how family should work. That's how you work when the fire has already started and you just can't see the flames yet. 3 nights later, I came off a 16-hour shift, smelling like wet rope and sorrow. Jess was on my couch, mascara like smoke under her eyes, phone on speaker. Mom's voice filled the room. "Your brother needs to be a team player for once in his life." For once. I repeated and Jess winced. Mom barreled on. "Evan has a line on a used truck. He can start deliveries. He just needs a cosign. No money, just your name, Aaron. We're family." I stared at Jess. She stared at the table. "No," I said. The word felt clean in my mouth, like scrubbing off soot. Mom's sharp intake of breath hissed. "You always think you're better than us because you run into burning buildings." "I think I'm tired," I said. She hung up. 2 minutes later, Evan texted, asterisk, "Chill, bro. It's just paperwork." Asterisk, I didn't answer. I went to the shower and turned it too hot, letting the steam fog the mirror until I could pretend I wasn't in it. That week, Jess moved out. New roommate, new keys. She hugged me hard, promised she'd bring back the phone charger she'd accidentally packed. I checked the kitchen drawer twice after she left. The cards were exactly where I'd put them. I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for a year. Then came 3:04 a.m. and Mom's voice, a siren with teeth. Asterisk, I see you. 22,000. We'll stick him with all the bills. Asterisk, stick who? Me. It was always me. until I said a brand new word. At the station before I left for the precinct, my captain looked up from his coffee. "You good?" "My family's house is on fire," I said. He just nodded, like he knew the address. "Where your air? Don't breathe them in." When I walked into the station lobby, Sergeant Kovalchuk studied me like a building with a hidden basement. "You're the brother," he said. "Yeah," I replied. "What happened?" They brought me to a small room that smelled like copy paper and old arguments. A metal chair, a table with a water ring like a thumbprint. The sergeant slid a notepad toward me. At 2:17 a.m., he began, "Your sister, Jessica, last name, was brought to county. Panic attack, dehydration, and," he paused, "traces of oxycodone in her blood. She's stable, out of danger." My jaw unclenched, just enough to let a ragged breath in. "And my parents?" He rubbed his eye with one finger. "Your mother called the hospital, demanding a financial hold be lifted from your sister's chart. There is no such thing. She demanded they call you to pay $22,000 to activate support. That's not how hospitals work." I closed my eyes. "So, they lied to me." "They called you because the cards they tried first declined," he said flatly. "We have reports of attempted withdrawals across 3 accounts linked to your name." The room tilted. "Linked how?" He turned the notepad so I could see. A number I recognized, my spare card. Another number I didn't, a prepaid phone. Then a third, Evan's old checking account. Earlier in the week, the sergeant said, those accounts saw small test charges. 2 gas stations, a corner store. Last night, someone tried to cash advance $2,000 at an ATM near the hospital. Declined. Then they tried your card ending in 4881. Approved for $200. We pulled the camera. "It's your father." It took a second for my brain to accept the shape of those words. My father. The man whose voice could charm me, standing at an ATM with my card number. The sergeant watched me, unblinking. "We've got Jess's statement. She says she didn't know the plan. She says she woke up in the ER and asked someone to call you, but your mother took the phone. Is Jess in trouble?" I asked, dread coiling in my gut. "She's sick," he said. "And she's scared." He pushed a small evidence bag across the table. Inside, a sticky note, folded in half. My handwriting on the outside, Wi-Fi plus PIN. The note I kept under a magnet on the fridge. On the back, a different hand had scribbled a list of numbers. The last 4 matched my spare card. Someone had flipped my note. Made it a weapon. I didn't trust my voice. I looked at the sergeant. He looked at me. The distance between us felt like a hallway full of smoke. He said, "This is the part where I ask if you want to file charges." I stared at the bag, at my handwriting, bent into a weapon. In my head, I heard Mom at 3:04 a.m. I heard Dad's whisper, "A hero." I heard myself, "Call your perfect son." The old script wanted me to fold. To say, "Not this time." To pay. To fix. To mop. To let them call it an accident in the morning and a misunderstanding by lunch. Instead, I said, "What happens if I do?" Fraud, attempted theft, possibly identity theft, depending on what we find. The hospital's running its own incident report because of the harassment call. Your sister can go to a rehab program instead of charges if she agrees. I swallowed. My mouth tasted like pennies. "And if I don't?" "They go home," he said. "They do it again. To you. To someone who can't afford it. You know how this works. Fire has rules. Families don't. But I do." "Do it," I said. "File it. On both of them." The sergeant nodded once, the way we nod when someone makes the choice they didn't want but know is right. He slid the form to me. My hand shook on the first line and then didn't as I signed. The door flew open. Mom walked in, her hair still perfect, outrage wrapped around her like a coat. "Aaron," she hissed. "What is this? They're saying you accused us of stealing? You must have misunderstood me last night. You were half asleep." She turned to the sergeant, a sweet smile that could slice a throat. "Officer, we're not criminals. This is a family matter." I kept my eyes on the form. "You tried to take my money." She laughed once, a dry bark. "Money? Your sister is sick. What's wrong with you?" I looked up. Finally. "What's wrong with me?" I said, my voice dangerously calm. is that you expected I'd say yes before you even asked. Her face changed. The mask slipped. We do everything for this family, and you repay us by embarrassing us in front of who? I asked softly. The police? The bank? The hospital? The mirror? She reached for my arm. I pulled back. She stared at her empty hand like it had betrayed her. Dad stepped into the doorway. His eyes were small. Real brave, son. Hiding behind paperwork. All the things I wanted to say, years of them, stacked up behind my teeth. Then one came out, clean and sharp. You can stop calling me son, I said. I'm Aaron. Dad smirked, but his eyes flickered. Mom opened her mouth. I shook my head. No more. Not today. I slid the form back to the sergeant. My signature looked like a road I'd finally taken. I left the precinct feeling like I'd been inside a building that still smoldered. The air tasted like old wires. Outside, the sun was too bright for what the morning felt like. At the station, the guys didn't ask questions. They handed me a mug, left me a corner. That's love, in our language. Captain dropped a donut near my elbow and said, "We've got a hydrant drill at 10. Join if you want noise." I nodded. I needed noise. Around noon, my phone lit up with a stream of messages that started as guilt and curdled into threats. Mom, you've humiliated us. Dad, you'll pay for this. Unknown number. How could you do this to your sister? Evan. Bro. WTF. Did you tell the cops? I put the phone face down and went outside to wash the rig. The hose thumped in my palm. Water hit steel. Something in me unclenched for the first time in years. At 3 p.m., Jess texted from a hospital device. I'm sorry, I stared until the words doubled. She added, asterisk, I didn't know about the cards. I swear. I told them to ask you. I didn't know they already had your numbers. Please don't hate me. Asterisk then. Asterisk they want me to go to a program. I think I should. Asterisk I typed back. Asterisk you should. I'll help with the program, not with lies. Asterisk she replied with a heart and a crying face. It made me want to punch a wall and hug her at the same time. That night, I went home. To the apartment that finally felt like it belonged to me. I pulled the fridge magnet off and threw the Wi-Fi note in the trash. I changed every password. I froze the spare card. I called the bank and added a passphrase only I could answer. I signed up for alerts that turned my phone into a siren if a penny moved. I made a list on the back of an old shift calendar. Things that are mine. It was short, but it felt holy. My name. My paycheck. My sleep. 2 days later, the extended family exploded. An aunt sent a group text. Asterisk we are talking about this at Sunday dinner. We settle things in the family. Asterisk I responded. We don't settle crimes over pot roast. She didn't reply. Evan tried a different tactic. He showed up outside the station, leaning against his car like a bad idea. I saw him through the bay doors and stepped out into the sun before anyone else could get pulled into our mess. He lifted his hands. Look, man. This went too far. Mom freaked. Dad panicked. Jess was sick. You know how they are. You're really going to press charges. You used my numbers, I said. His smile thinned. I might have taken a photo once. For emergencies. You're not the emergency, I said. You're the one who sets the fire and calls it weather. He rolled his eyes. Spare me the firefighter metaphors. Just tell them you made a mistake. I didn't. He stepped closer until I could smell the cologne he couldn't afford. I'm your brother. I'm the bank, I said. At least, that's what you thought. He laughed. Sharp and ugly. Fine. You want to play hard? When Dad cut you off senior year, who gave you my couch? You charged me rent for a couch with springs, I said. And you borrowed the cash back for gas. He flinched. Not because it was untrue, but because I remembered. He tried one more trick. You know, Mom's heart isn't great. This stress. Stop, I said. No more bodies in front of the truck. Not hers. Not Jess's. Not mine. He stared at me for a long time, like he was deciding whether to throw a punch or a compliment. He chose the third option. Silence. Then he got in his car and sped away like he'd won something. He hadn't. The next week, Mom discovered a new stage, broadcast martyrdom. She called relatives, inventing softer versions. In one, I misunderstood a medical emergency. In another, the bank made a mistake. In the version for church people, I was lost in pride. I didn't correct anyone. I let the official record speak. The sergeant called with updates, cards flagged, hospital note filed, court date in 6 weeks for my parents. Jess checked into a 30-day program, he added. She asked if you could bring her a hoodie. No strings. Tell her I will, I said. I found an old station sweatshirt, the one with a bleach spot over the pocket, and dropped it at the program desk with her name. I didn't ask to see her. I figured she needed less audience and more oxygen. At work, I slept better in the top bunk than I ever had at home. I woke up hungry. I started running after shift, not to outrun anything, but to feel my lungs on my side. I dug a box out from under my bed labeled Someday and opened it. Inside were a few brochures: paramedic school, rope rescue certification, a pamphlet for a small cabin by a lake I'd circled in red years ago and then shoved away because family emergencies didn't respect deposits. On Thursday, I booked the rope course. On Friday, I called the cabin number and asked if the off-season rate was still the little number in the corner. It was. I put down a deposit. My hand didn't shake. Mom found out about the charges becoming real. She called and left a message that started as a sigh and swelled into a storm. "If you go through with this, you are dead to us," she said, her voice shaking. "You hear me, Aaron? Dead." I sat on the edge of my bed, phone to my ear, listening to the person who made me say I didn't exist. Then I deleted the message and set my phone to only allow favorites. Only 3 people are favorites. My captain, my partner, and yes, Jess's counselor, who gives me updates with Jess's permission. Boundaries aren't a wall. They're a door I control. Sunday came. No pot roast. I made eggs and ate them over the stove in my boxers. The quiet didn't feel lonely. It felt new. That afternoon, a number I didn't recognize called. A dry voice. "Collections for Mr. Evan last name. He listed you as a cosigner for a truck loan." My throat stayed calm. I did not sign anything. "Send me the document with the signature." It came by email. A sloppy scroll that tried to be my name and failed. I replied with the police report number. 10 minutes later, a new email. *, we apologize for the inconvenience. The application has been withdrawn. *, I laughed out loud, alone in my kitchen. It sounded like a window opening. The last aftershock came midweek. The precinct asked me to come in and make a supplemental statement because Mom had submitted her own statement, full of holes. I showed up in the same boots as before. As I sat with the sergeant, I heard a familiar voice in the hallway. "Dad, too loud for indoors. Kid thinks he's a saint," he was saying. "He wants to teach us a lesson." I stared at the table until my own reflection steadied. Then I asked the sergeant if I could say one thing to them after we finished. He considered. "Short," he said. When I stepped into the hallway, my parents turned toward me like the room had suddenly tilted. Dad's mouth loaded a bullet. Mom's eyes already wet. I raised a hand. "Don't. I just came to say 2 sentences." They waited, hating it. 1, I said, "I love Jess, and I will help her get healthy." 2, "I am done funding lies, threats, and emergencies you engineer." I looked at Mom. "If your heart hurts, see a doctor. If your pride hurts, sit with it." Dad scoffed. "You think you're better than us?" I shook my head. "No, I think I'm exactly like I've always been, the one who does the hard thing. Only now, the hard thing is not rescuing you." I left before they could reload. Outside, the air smelled like rain. I let it. I didn't look back. A month later, the court put a soft edge on a hard reality. My parents pled to a lesser charge, attempted fraud, with restitution and a class that probably won't fix anything, but at least names it. There's a no-contact order for 90 days unless they go through a mediator. 90 days sounds small unless you've never had a quiet week in your life. To me, it's an ocean. Jess finished the 30-day program and looks like herself again. The self from before the men and the pills and the weight of being everyone's soft target. We sat on a bench outside her meetings with coffee we didn't need and sunlight we did. She said, "I'm sorry I became another emergency." I said, "You were a person in pain." She said, "I took your charger and you're quiet." I said, "You can take my charger. You can't take my name." We left. We made a plan as equals. She pays me back when she's stable. If she slips, she calls me before she calls anyone who would sell her a story. The firehouse threw me a small celebration for the rope course. A grocery cake with too much frosting. A paper banner that said, "Not God," in marker because firefighters can't help themselves. I took a photo. It's the first photo in a long time where I'm not half watching a phone for a family disaster. Mom tried one last round. Letters delivered to the station because she knew I'd open anything that looked official. I didn't. I brought them to our admin, logged them per the order, and went for a run. Boundaries, not drama. My body caught up to that concept before my brain did. I sleep now. Real sleep. The kind that isn't waiting for a 3 a.m. siren shaped like your mother. I drove to the lake cabin for a weekend and sat on the dock with my feet in the water, phone on Do Not Disturb, thinking about how strange it is to choose yourself and survive it. I thought about Dad's voice calling me a hero like it was an insult. The truth is simple. Dragging people out of burning houses doesn't teach you how to stop setting your own. You have to learn that part on purpose. On my last morning there, Jess texted me a photo from group. Her in a thrifted sweater, hair in a messy bun, holding a cheap coin that said 30. The message under it, "I'm building a life that doesn't need saving." I stared at it until my eyes blurred. Then I sent back a photo of the dock and wrote, "Me too." When I got home, I made one more list. Not things that are mine. I already know those. This was different. Things I don't know. An apology for protecting myself. A loan to someone who calls it love. A seat at a table where I'm the entree. Yes, that sets me on fire. I taped the list inside my pantry door where only I'll ever see it. That's enough. Not everything needs to be announced to count. Sometimes I hear the faint ghost of Dad's laugh or Mom's sigh in the hallway of my head. Sometimes I replay the night I said, "Call your perfect son," and wonder if I sounded cruel. But then I remember the evidence bag, my handwriting bent into a weapon. I remember the ATM photo. I remember the sergeant's quiet nod when I chose the kind of heart that grows you. People think closure is a door slamming. It's not. It's unlearning the habit of handing out keys. So here's the moral. In the plainest words I've got, I won't be a wallet with a heartbeat. I won't be a siren you can summon because you don't feel like living within your limits. I love my sister. I don't hate my parents. I just love my own life more than I love being used. That 3 a.m. call taught me something I should have learned years ago in a room full of smoke. If you don't put on your own air, you pass out while saving people who never plan to leave the fire. I'm done breathing their smoke. I'm Erin. I fight fires, not my own anymore.